UFC Fight Night, Sandhagen versus Font. The UFC heads to Nashville this weekend for a main card featuring Cory Sandhagen and Rob Font. Today I'm going to be going through each of these fights. I'm going to break down each of them and give my picks, starting with some flyweights. We have Osbourne taking on Assu Almabayev, the UFC newcomer. Osbourne is the underdog in this one at plus 145, but it looks like by the time the fight rolls around, he'll probably be an even bigger underdog. He's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Assu Almabayev, he is 17-2 overall. He's coming from Kazakhstan, making his UFC debut. Guys, this one really reminded me of a more recent UFC flyweight fight we saw with Tyson Nam. His opponent was also a newcomer from Kazakhstan, making his UFC debut. And we saw Tyson Nam really, in my opinion, clearly win that fight. Didn't get the win on the cards. Not quite a robbery, but I thought he definitely won that fight. But that's kind of my mindset going into this one. Some of these Kazakhstani guys, the flyweights, I think they're coming in with some inflated records. And this Almabayev, he looks pretty good, but at the end of the day, I think UFC experience trumps a shiny-looking record. So I'm going to take Osbourne in this one. He's big, he's strong for the division, good on his feet. As long as he doesn't gas, I think he handles his business here, wins a decision. Next up, we have the featherweights. Sean Woodson taking on Dennis Buzukja. Sean Woodson is the minus 175 favorite here. Dennis is making his official UFC debut after a couple of Dana White Contender Series bouts, losing one to Melik Bagdasaryan and then winning the next. I think Buzukja is a solid fighter, really tough, scrappy guy. But Woodson in this one, I think he just has a lot more finishing capabilities. He's long. I think he might have the longest legs in the UFC, regardless of weight class. He actually looks insane. Proportionately, his torso is, the size of a 5'3" person, and then his legs are just long as hell. He got long arms too, so I think Dennis is really going to struggle with the reach here. Sean Woodson's got good striking. Gassing also seems to be an issue for him, but when he goes for finishes, I think he's going to be able to get one. So Woodson by KO is going to be the pick here. Buzukja, really tough guy, but I think this is just going to be a tough matchup for him, overcoming the height difference here. Next up, we have a couple more flyweights. Cody Durden, he is going to be taking on Jake Hadley. Cody Durden is the plus 150 or so underdog here, with Hadley being a minus 175 favorite. Durden has been on a hot streak lately. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Hadley is 3-1 in his own right. Both of these guys, I think, are very good in the flyweight division, both top 15 caliber guys. Cody Durden, tough as nails, had that big KO over JP Buys. Good all over the place. Jake Hadley, on the other hand, he's had his ups and downs, and he's still kind of putting the pieces together, but I think he possesses just a lot more athleticism than Cody Durden. His hands are super fast, and when he's able to let him go, he really can hurt you. He's coming off of a KO win over, over Malcolm Gordon. I think he really showed out in this one, in that one in the UK, and I think he's going to put on a performance here for the crowd in Nashville. I don't see him finishing Durden. Durden's just too tough, but I see Hadley getting a decision. I think he's going to do better on the feet. His hand speed is going to rattle Cody Durden, and I think his grappling, if Cody Durden resorts to trying to grapple, I think his grappling strong enough to win the ground exchanges as well. Next up is another featherweight bout between Billy Quarantillo and Damon Jackson. Billy Q is the favorite in this one. He's 2-3 in his last 5. Damon Jackson, on the other hand, is 4-1 in his last 5. You wouldn't think that, just based off of what you think about Damon Jackson. His record definitely shocked me. He's been getting a lot more wins than losses. Putting together a 4-1 streak is very admirable. I think a lot of people I'm not going to say look down on him, but underestimate him just because some of his losses have been pretty vicious. Ignacio put him out cold. He's just been KO'd really roughly when he does lose. Billy Quarantillo, I'm not going to say he's got the most power, but I think he just has more of the threat to get a finish in this one compared to Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson's not really going to put you out. Did have that crazy KO a few fights ago, but Billy Quarantillo, I would lean towards him in terms of who's got the better finishing ability. I think his ability to hurt Damon Jackson and not be hurt as badly in return is going to benefit him. I think he gets a decision here. I don't see him putting away Damon Jackson, but I think he gets a win here to get back on track after losing to Barboza, I believe it was. To the welterweight division, we go for the next fight. It is Jeremiah Wells taking on Carlston Harris. Jeremiah Wells, undefeated in the UFC, 4-0. He's going to be the minus 150 favorite here, with Carlston Harris being a slight underdog. He is 3-1 in the UFC. His only loss coming to Shavkat. Wells, I think he's a very impressive fighter. I don't think he's had the best competition in the UFC. See Blood Diamond and Court McGee. Blood Diamond being super one-dimensional. I don't even know if he trained MMA before that fight or if he just kept doing kickboxing and said, I'll just give this a shot. Court McGee also, he was kind of older, not as dangerous. So, Jeremiah Wells, I think he could get exposed here. He doesn't have the best defense. We saw him versus Semmelsberger get rocked a bunch of times. Was able to grapple his way out of that fight because Semmelsberger just had zero wrestling and that no interest in sprawling or really fighting through some of those takedowns. So that really cost Semmelsberger in that fight. Carlston Harris has a lot of power and he's good inside up close, where I think Jeremiah Wells could get caught. So I think Harris finds a KO in this one and really exposes a big weakness of Jeremiah Wells, which is his defense. Next up, we have bantamweights. We have the return of Kyler Phillips. He's going to be taking on Raoni Barcelos. Kyler is the 2-1 favorite in this one. He's 4-1 in his last 5, with Barcelos being 2-3. This is the return. Kyler had that tainted blood test. I know he's boys with Sean O'Malley. Both of them kind of share that tainted samples between the two. But, Kyler's going to be juiced up. He's really athletic. I think Barcelos has regressed a lot as of late. Just got KO'd bad by Umar. And Kyler is, I think, just starting to hit his prime. He's dangerous everywhere. He's good on the feet. He hurts you bad. I mean, his one loss is to Paiva, and he rocked Paiva so many times in that fight. It was a miracle that Paiva made it to the end, let alone managed to turn things around and get the win. So, I think Kyler's just too dangerous here. I think he finds a finish in this one. I'm not sure if it's on the feet or I'll say he subs the Brazilian Barcelos. So Kyler by submission is going to be the pick. Now we go to the main card with Ignacio Bahamondes in the lightweight division. He's setting it off. He's taking on Klein. Ludovit. Ignacio's coming in at 2-1 here. He is 4-1 in the UFC. Ludovit is 2-1. Ludovit's coming off of that draw versus Jai Herbert, where neither guy really set the other apart. Jai did have that point taken away from him. Otherwise, he would have won that fight, though. Bahamondes, on the other hand, is coming in with a lot of momentum. Just beat the brakes off of Trey Ogden. Ogden really had no answer for him. Bahamondes is really long for the division, has good striking, good kicks. He throws kicks at all different angles, gives guys a lot to worry about. I don't think Ludovit's going to have an answer for the varied striking of Bahamondes. Bahamondes is a guy who, we can start talking about a top 15 contest with him if he gets a win here, so he's going to be super motivated. The lightweight division obviously is just insanely stacked, but I think they can make room for a long athletic striker like Bahamondes. Potentially, I could see them setting up a little like Jalen Turner matchup or something. A guy in the lightweight division who, it kind of struggled, but still has a lot of name value and a lot of talent. I think that would be a sweet fight for Bahamondes, but yeah, I think he gets through Ludovit easily. Ludovit's not a guy who really gets finished, so I think it'll be by decision, though. Next up, we have some light heavyweights. Is Tanner Boser taking on Aleksa Camur. I had to Google Aleksa Camur before this. I had not heard of him. He has had a couple of fights in the UFC and does have a win in the Contender Series. I guess he hasn't really fought in 2 years. After looking into that, it sounds like he had some nerve damage that he was talking about in an interview. So that is a bit of a red flag, but just looking at the guy, I mean, he's got a lot of athleticism. He's got a lot of power. His win to get into the UFC, which he got in when he was like 4-0 or something, which makes sense because he had a crazy flying knee KO. So that was really all I needed to see. I think the athleticism is going to set himself above Tanner Boser, and he's going to be the underdog in this one, so you're getting value there. Tanner Boser is he's 1-4 in his last 5. I mean, there are shades of kind of Derek Lewis there, a guy who's 1-4. We're kind of fighting for their UFC career here. So maybe Tanner could come in and be super motivated and show that he's still got some tread left on the tires or whatever the saying is. But I think Camur's going to come in and beat up the veteran. I think he gets a KO here, and it could be the last we see of Tanner Boser, which is a shame because I do like Tanner Boser a lot. Good personality and, tough as nails. But next up, we have more featherweights. This is really the card of the featherweights. It is Diego Lopes taking on Gavin Tucker. Diego Lopes, if the name doesn't ring a bell for you, his hair definitely will. He's a guy who came in on short notice versus Evloev and really stunned him. It was a super competitive fight. Had his chances to win that fight a few times, and really just showed out on short notice. He was a guy who everyone wrote off. He was a huge underdog with the betting lines. I mean, he must have been 5 or 6 to 1 because Evloev is undefeated and really has, kind of run through everyone who's been put in his way. So, yeah, Lopes is definitely a fan favorite here. I am going to favor him in this one versus Gavin Tucker. I think Tucker's really going to be looking for submissions here, and Lopes, we've seen that he's got great grappling that matches up to the elite of the UFC featherweights, as he really was finding a lot of success grappling against Evloev. Tucker is not on Evloev's level of grappling. I think Lopes finds a submission in this one, turns the table on Gavin Tucker, and and all UFC fans shall rejoice because that dude is pretty electric. I feel like he's gonna kind of fill that void that Zhalgiris Zhumagulov left in all of our hearts by being the dude with the crazy hairstyle who just comes in and fights wild. But moving along to the light heavyweight division, we have Dustin Jacoby taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. Dustin Jacoby is a guy who's coming off of back-to-back losses here, and he is the plus 125 underdog. Kennedy, on the other hand, is streaking in his own right. He is 3-2 in his last 5. I think he may have won 3 in a row now. Yeah, 3-1. He's beaten Carl Roberson, Kutalaba, Devin Clark. He's coming in with a lot of momentum here. Jacoby, he struggled against Mirzakhanov, a guy who was a pretty one-dimensional striker. Mirzakhanov did impress me a bit in that fight. He worked the body well as well, but he really does kind of just spam overhand rights. And Dustin Jacoby, who's supposed to be one of the better kickboxers in the division. Really just had no answer. I think Nzechukwu is going to have the size and speed advantage in this one. He's big, he's powerful, he looks like a heavyweight. I kind of see similarities between him and Johnny Walker. And Johnny Walker, I think these guys both struggled, both got knocked out early in their careers, but they're proving that, at the end of the day, if you're bigger, stronger, faster in these heavier weight divisions, that's going to get you a long way. So I see Kennedy getting a decision win here. Jacoby's not a guy who's put away easily, but I think the light heavyweight division should be on watch for Kennedy and Nzechukwu. I think really this guy is the limit for him if he can just kind of put all the pieces together. Next in our co-main, we have a strawweight fight between Jessica Andrade and Tatiana Suarez. Andrade is the plus 275 underdog. She's 2-3 in her last 5, coming off of back-to-back losses. And Suarez is the minus 350 favorite here. She is undefeated, 10-0. The Ultimate Fighter, former winner. Andrade is moving back down to strawweight, which is the one thing giving me pause here because she really has not looked good. She got dominated by Blanchfield, and Yan Xiaonan knocked her around, got the KO on her. Will this weight class suit Andrade better? I'm not so sure. I don't know if this is really going to solve all of her issues here going down. I think some of her endurance was a bit concerning in those fights, and she just didn't really look all the way locked in. Not really the Andrade we're used to seeing, who is big, strong, ragdolls people. So Suarez, I think she's going to have the big grappling advantage here, as she has against most opponents she faces. I see her taking down Andrade and subbing her and running through her pretty easily. Andrade really has regressed, and she might need a matchup versus a lesser fighter to sort of get herself on track. Suarez is not, she's one of the more elite grapplers in that division, and she herself is trying to put herself in a position to fight for the title in a couple of fights. So, I think she's just got all the motivation here and should go through Andrade pretty easily. And then finally, we have the main event between the bantamweights. We have Cory Sandhagen. He's taking on Rob Font. Rob Font is the late replacement for Umar, who looks like he dislocated his shoulder or something. The video that was released from their training camp does not give a whole lot of information. He's sort of just working pads or sparring and throws a punch, and it looked like he might have threw his arm out pretty bad. Khabib has come and in an interview said that is something that Umar is struggling with. So that's something that you can't really fight through, that I think he's going to be getting surgically repaired. So we might not see Umar for a while, but luckily we have Rob Font coming in to save the day and saving this card. Rob Font is a guy who was at the cream of the crop of the bantamweight division, suffered 2 bad losses to Jose Aldo and Cheeto. But I think the silver lining in that Cheeto fight was definitely that Rob Font was putting the pace on and really, landing a decent amount. He just never could really hurt Cheeto, and then at the end of every round, he would get obliterated by Cheeto and almost finish. So, obviously not the best showing, but he came back against Adrian Yanez. I picked Rob Font to win that fight. I thought he just had the better, crisper striking, and he came out and made a statement versus Yanez, showing that there's levels to this game, to the striking in the bantamweight division, and knocked him out. So, but he's going to be taking on Cory Sandhagen here, a guy who just thoroughly dominated Cheeto in his own right. So, law of syllogism here. Cheeto beats Font. Cory Sandhagen beat Cheeto. I think that's what a lot of people are thinking here. I think that's why the betting line has swelled to such a heavy favorite for Sandhagen. I wouldn't count Font out at all in this fight. I mean, I don't see him getting a finish in this one, but he does have high-level striking and really good cardio, and he throws a lot of punches, and I think there is a world where he finds a way to just sort of outpoint Sandhagen and maybe not really hurt Cory, but just win it on the cards. But if I had to guess, I think Cory's he's taller. He's more in his athletic prime than Font. Font's a little bit older. But yeah, both guys are going to be coming in super motivated. A bantamweight shot at the title is definitely on the line for Sandhagen. I'm not so sure about Font. But yeah, I think Cory's just so close. He can taste that title shot. He's going to be super motivated here. I think Sandhagen is as skilled of a striker as there is in the bantamweight division, save for maybe like Petr Yan and O'Malley, just about. I mean, I think those are your three right there, best strikers. So this is his chance to really solidify a title shot for himself against a guy like Rob Font, who's, a win versus Rob Font, if Font didn't get the win over Yanez, would not mean as much. But I think Font showed a lot of people that he's legit. He's one of the elite bantamweight fighters in the division. I just don't think he's quite as good as Sandhagen. So I have Cory winning by unanimous decision here. He kind of gets a lot of his wins by UD. I mean, he got the split decision versus Cheeto, but that was just the worst. Just one of the judges was smoking crack. But yeah, Cory by unanimous decision is the pick there. And with that, those are all my picks for this fight. This is very late, and I am starting to not make sense. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one.